Hey guys, how are y'all today? It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today I have a very special guest, my friend Gibson Johns, the incredible host of Gabbing with Gib. How are you feeling? How are you doing?
The Brooke Ashley, I will do anything for you. You are one of my faves. Um, we always run into each other at every single Bravo event in New York City that we're always at, and somehow we always end up just in the corner, like laughing about something. And I just love you. You're the best, and so I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. I'm like honored that you're here. So I can't wait to just chat with you. This is long overdue, I have to add. So I'm just so happy that I could get a moment of your time.
Well, you came on to Gabbing with Gabe with me. I think like maybe last fall or last summer,
Yes.
and you OC. I'll never forget. OC was on. And you went in on Gina Kirschenheiter in a way that I almost just couldn't contain myself. So, thank you for the gift of just existing in this in this space because I just love it. I really do.
So I do want to just jump right on
Just
into
do it.
Potomac. We are in season 9. We know that everybody's getting along, which we all love. So yay for that.
Mhm.
But for me, the season has fallen a bit flat. I feel like it started off with a big buzz and then it just sort of flatlined. How are you feeling about everything?
I feel the same way. Like I was so like hopeful about the direction of this season. The premiere was promising. I felt like we had multiple storylines happening. Like it wasn't super divided, but it wasn't also like too cordial. You know what I mean? It was a nice level for me, and I was laughing again. That's my thing with Potomac. I want to laugh with Potomac, and I will say they have kept that up. Like I feel like I still laugh with them almost every episode, but in the past like month or so, like the past like maybe 4 episodes, 4 or 5 episodes, it feels like it's either like a filler episode or it's all about Mia, and like there's just nothing much else going on. And like that's an issue. And obviously they thought going into this season that Karen would probably play a lot more ball when it came to the DUI stuff. But like now that she's obviously not, what else is there besides the Mia stuff? And when your central storyline is something that you don't even know if you can trust the primary, subject of that storyline, it's sort of like, okay, so now we're watching a show that like it could just be like 45 minutes of lies.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's tough. Yeah.
Well, we saw that it was lies because Ray and Gordon go out for lunch in the
Hmm.
latest episode, and Gordon exposes her. He puts everything on Front Street.
Listen, one thing she's going to do is expose, and I love him for that. I do. I really do. And the fact that we got a G and Ray lunch moment was just something about it just kind of tickled me, you know? It just did.
They were so cute, Ray's getting all the tea from Gordon, and Gordon's checking on Ray to see how he's doing. I thought it was interesting when Ray said, I feel like I'm controlling less and less as the days go on. And then
Right.
Gordon said, I agree with that. And then when
Mm.
he spilled that little story about Karen when she was pregnant with Raven and the whole blue eyes lie, and he was like,
Mhm.
no, like, let's stop it. Like, that's not true. And I was like, what did you make of that? Like, was that confirmation that she has been stepping out?
Like, maybe? I maybe. Like, it wasn't I just feel like it's also funny because and we'll get back to Ray, but, like, Giselle in her confessional at one point basically was like, "Yeah, we all know that's happening." Like, it feels like in this group, it's just, like, it's almost taken as fact, and so for Ray to say that, it kinda felt like confirmation to me. Like, no? Did you think of
Yeah.
that? Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
absolutely. Because
Yeah.
I had even remembered when I think it was season 7. Do you remember when they went on that like they went to the nail salon together and she
Yeah.
was joking around about having eye candy and how he feels about that. And his answer felt like confirmation then because he said something like, "Oh, well, you can look but don't touch, but then
Mm.
just be discreet about it." And I said that right there is like letting us know that yes, we have an arrangement going
Yeah,
on.
there's an arrangement for sure.
Right? So I feel like And then I know everybody can't be lying. I think that, Charisse, Giselle, Candace even alluded to it that one
Mhm.
season. Ashley was like, well, I saw her coming out of, somewhere, I didn't want to say anything, but she's been zipping it and zooing it out in these DC Potomac streets.
Yeah, but the thing is, it feels like maybe it's just not it's obviously a big deal because Karen, like, just, like, won't completely confirm it, but, like, Ray doesn't even seem that bothered by it in a big way. He's just you know what I mean? Like, he just feels like he's, like, content with it all,
Yes.
Like, I don't know. I don't feel bad for Ray because, again, he feels like he's good with the arrangement, whatever it is. I just wish I
Yes.
knew what the arrangement was. I'd love to know.
I feel like one day we'll find out. I could see, which leads me into Karen's DUI. We saw
Yeah,
the body cam footage right before
we
New
did,
Year's,
we
and
did.
we see that she was completely lying. Ray was trying to cover for her. I mean, like a good husband. He's
The
trying to take the
purse
fall
moment.
for her.
The purse moment where she's looking for the ID in the purse, and it's like she's like her entire arm it's like a Mary Poppins bag, but the bag is just like a little crossbody. It's like her entire arm isn't looking for this ID. He can't find it. It's woof. Yeah. It's not a laughing matter, but maybe I mean, I just I don't know. I can't I've been thinking about that footage like at least like every other day at this
Yeah.
point. It's just like I can't get it out of my mind.
I know. And then she's skipping the reunion. So, but then Andy is promising that this is one of the best Potomac reunions that we're going to see since season 5.
I
Do
know,
you
which is
believe
hard
that?
to imagine for me. I don't know if I fully believe that. I feel like he keeps on saying that she's there but not there, which makes me think that she probably sent a video in or something like
Mhm.
that, where she's like, "I'm getting help, whatever." And like, I don't want to dunk on somebody for getting help for something that is clearly an issue for them, but at the same time, it's impossible to ignore the fact that it's very convenient timing for her to be getting this treatment. It's like great for her, good for her, never too late, whatever. Also, gets to skip the reunion by getting treatment at this time, gets to show the judge in her sentencing that she is serious about changing. It's like, which is good for her, but she still hasn't been able to face, the questions and taking accountability for the fact that she said all season, I will be vindicated. And then we see the footage and it's like, where's the vindication's not in the room with us. You know what I mean? And I love Karen Huger is like historically one of my top 5 favorite housewives ever. But I'm just sort of like, what is like where was she seeing that coming from? I just feel like, and I think I saw, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like she got a new lawyer or something like that. Like I feel like I saw something about her getting new legal representation. And I kept being like, she's being advised really badly. Like somebody, and that's not to take any blame away from her, but like it just feels like whoever was her lawyer was giving her the wrong advice. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like was in her ear, like, yeah, let's take this to trial. Like this is contestable. It was not contestable. You know what I
No.
mean? Like that was always going to go one way. So I don't know. It's tough. It's really tough. But
Well,
yeah,
are we thinking that it's gonna be a 2-part or a 3-part reunion?
I would have a hard time believing with her not there. Like they could have made a full part about Karen and the DUI and the footage that came out and all that stuff if she had been there. But now I'm like, okay, a 3-parter where it's like basically all about Mia, G, and Ink. And like, also, did you see on Watch What Happens Live when it was Kiki and Wendy? And
Mhm.
Andy was like, there is an 11th hour tea reveal by somebody super surprising. He didn't really give any clue about like who it was or what it was about, just that it was really unexpected and surprising. I don't know where your mind went. My mind went to Stacy, but I don't know what it would be about. But I'm just like, who's bringing who's so surprising that they're bringing like receipts and tea to the reunion at the 11th hour? Like who is? It felt like the person that was bringing it was shocking to him too.
So that's really funny that you said Stacy because that didn't even cross my mind. But now you have my wheels spinning. Like, what does maybe her soon-to-be ex-husband, come out or something?
Or like, it's I don't know. I'm just sort of like I wouldn't expect personally after watching this season, I love Stacey. I wouldn't expect her to come with like a folder of receipts. You know what I mean? Like who is somebody that is like you wouldn't expect to do that? like even Kay, I'm like, I feel like I wouldn't be that surprising unless it's like about Karen or something. I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, I don't know. It was that definitely made me intrigued for the reunion,
Yes.
I will say. It's a good tease.
It is a good tease, but there's a part of me that feels like we're getting played and it's gonna be more about Mia and Jacqueline and Ink and Gordon.
Mm.
Like, I
If
think
it's
that the
that,
right? I think that the reveal is gonna be maybe receipts about, "Oh, well, you were with him during that time." Like, I feel like it's gonna be that, and it's gonna be so anticlimactic, in my opinion.
I really
Or
hope it's not about that. I really hope
I
it's like
hope
literally I hope it's literally some random person on the cast about another random cast member having to do with nothing that we've seen. You know what I mean? That way it teases up for the next season and it's like something new. I'm just like, it can't be about them. I'm telling myself that just because I don't want it.
I'm
I know
hoping,
I know it's already happened, but yeah,
like, right? Fingers crossed. But
yeah,
I mean, well, the only thing I can think about, if it's not Mia, Jacqueline, and that, or Stacy,
right.
it could be maybe somebody comes in with tea about Karen.
Yeah. So it could like, and if it's from Stacy or Kay, I'm like, that would be surprising, I
Mhm.
guess. I don't know.
But Andy made it seem like somebody bursts into the reunion, like so it's like,
I
so it's
know.
is it like Raven coming? Is her daughter coming to like
Oh
say,
my god, imagine.
right?
Yeah, I
I
can't.
don't know.
Ray shows up with,
Yeah,
like,
maybe. Yeah, maybe it's Ray who shows up with tea or something.
took the Amtrak out from Potomac just to show up at the 11th hour. I mean, listen, I'd take it at this point, but I don't know. I don't know. But they him and Wendy seem, like, genuinely activated by that whatever it was, and so, like, because obviously we know Andy, he built up this reunion, he built up a lot of reunions, and so you can take that with a grain of salt, honestly,
Yep.
at this point, but it's rarely as specific as what he said on Sunday night on Watch What Happens Live, so that made me realize, okay, maybe I don't believe the whole reunion is like the best reunion since the
Yeah.
binder.
Same.
I don't believe that. And also like nothing's ever going to surpass the binder at this point. So it's like I think that's the best reunion or actually season 4 is pretty good too. But like, you know what I mean? Like they you're not surpassing that with the season that we had. I'm sorry. I just don't believe it.
The only thing that could surpass it is if it's about Karen and it's like some dropping bombshell. That's the only thing I can think of that would surpass the binder moment.
Right. Right. We'll see at the end of
Which,
part 2, I guess.
yeah.
Because
Yeah,
it's
but
not going to be 3 parts.
it can't be 3 parts. There wasn't enough for 3 parts. There's barely
No.
enough for 2 parts.
I know. I know.
Now, talking speaking about Mia and Jacqueline and Gordon and Ink, we see, Gordon reveals that she's been lying. Karen and Giselle confront her. My issue with Karen and Giselle confronting her was only like, you guys are like 3 seasons too late because the
Right.
audience already picked this up. So, how did you feel seeing them, bust her like, you're a liar? Did it feel sort of like, okay, like you guys are just now catching on. We've already been there. What were your thoughts?
It felt a little bit like that. It was gratifying to see at some level, and partially just because, like, it's just been such, like, a they've just been kinda, like, drifting along with this and, like, kinda questioning her a little bit, like, at the group event and then just kinda letting it go. Like, they took it to her, and I'm glad they took it to her, but I agree it felt like the writing's been on the wall for this for, like, 2
Mhm.
seasons, and, like and also I think to see that happen also after her Instagram post over the holidays that was, like, with the G and Ink stuff, like, basically saying that she's back with G and, like, done with Ink, and it's just, like, I just feel like there's, like, different narratives happening on different platforms at different times. None of them are true. None of them are, like, making sense, like, if you connect them to each other, and so I I think I still found some satisfaction in seeing Giselle and Karen come for her just because it felt like they were a surrogate for us, even if they're late to the party, even if they're late to the drag show. It feels like I'm glad they did it. You know what I mean? Like it just feels like they are done with her. Like she has been straight up lying to all their faces. And then Jacqueline's like, well, she's like defending her. And she's like, well, I knew about this. And they were like, you knew about this? She's like, well, yeah, 2 days ago. And it's like, she is such a lackey for her. It's not fun to watch that.
It's not. It's not. And then, we're always hearing about the sexcapades and they can't even keep that story up straight. It's like, it's always something different. Well, you slept with him and then he slept. It's like, We don't care. We're not interested.
It's like at one point they're like, they're feeding into it, they're talking about it, they're giving us the details, and then like the next minute they're like, "Well, that was when we were 19. Why do people care about that?" And it's like, "Well, you've just been talking about it for a half an episode, so like now we're not supposed to care. Like, I need something to latch onto here, please." And like, oh, and now Ashley's feeding into it. I don't need to hear about like, oh my god, uh,
So, which brings me to my last question about Potomac. Where do you see Potomac for season 10? Do we see Karen coming back? Do we see her being put on pause since skipping the reunion? Do you see this same cast still being a cast? Do you see some people being swapped out?
I feel like there's okay. One huge factor is whether or not Kale goes to jail. Karen goes to jail because
Mm-hmm.
jail time's on the table for her in terms of her sentencing. And so, the question there is, do they wait for her if she goes to jail? Do they start when she comes out? You know what I mean? And like, I don't know what the precedent is there because I feel like obviously with Teresa they waited.
Mm-hmm.
That was years ago, and also Teresa, it's hard to imagine Potomac without Karen, but also like not necessarily to the same level of like Jersey and Teresa,
Mm-hmm.
being sort of like intertwined. So even if it's like they start filming a season and then Karen gets out, a few weeks into filming or something, because I don't think it's going to be like a really long time behind bars necessarily if she gets any time. I'm not a legal expert, but just it feels like that's the conversation. And honestly, if that's like the peg to the season, like, and it promises like a Karen who is held accountable and answers questions, and it's hard to imagine she's not changed in this whole thing, right? Like it's hard to imagine she doesn't get some sort of message and really like learn something from this whole experience. And I hope that we get to see her again and that she shows those changes to us. You know what I mean? Because again, at the core of it, I really do love Karen. I just think that she needs to answer some of these questions, and us as an audience deserve it after not just 9 seasons with her, but also particularly this season again, where she was selling a different story to us than the one that we got. And so I think that's the biggest thing. I also don't. It's hard to imagine they can't like react to the dislike of the Mia and Jacqueline of it all. Like, I don't know if that
Mm-hmm.
means they completely let Mia go, but like, I don't need Jacqueline around at all. I don't think Mia does not need the built-in ally in Jacqueline, who's not compelling television at all. Mia, if she comes back, they have to have like a really stern talking to her about how she carries herself on the show, and like they need to like de-emphasize her storyline because I mean the viewership just doesn't like it. It's not. It can't just be the online viewers. I feel like it's everybody. Just like
Yeah.
does not. And so if they want to get Potomac, because I do think that like in some ways they got it back on the right track with like some pretty good newbies. I mean, Stacey's amazing. Kay, I think has had some good moments and some kind of boring moments, but like I could see her kind of being fine tuned. You know what I mean? Like I don't
Mhm.
understand what happened with Jazzy. I don't know where she went, but like she felt promising at the beginning. You know, um, so there are things that work for there are things that are working, and it's not as dark, but like it's still the formula is not correct. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, you know, regarding Karen, I think that, like you said, we do deserve answers as an audience, and I
Hmm.
do think that Bravo, if like let's say she did get like 60 days in jail, I do believe that Bravo would hold up filming to wait for her. I
Hmm.
think that that story is just such a vital part, and it would season 10 would feel so like unfinished and just so weird if they got rid of her and then we just start like with like just wouldn't feel right.
Yeah. Well, also, did you notice that in her statement, she said, or her lawyer or rep, whoever released that statement with her when it was announced that she was seeking treatment, he said in the statement she is fully supported in this decision. Which
Mm,
the subtext of that is Bravo supports this decision and
mhm.
production supports this decision. So they're not firing her. There's no way. And also, to be cynical for a second, the follow-up to something like this is really good television. It just is. And it would bring good ratings to the show. It's like you can make lemonade out of lemons in this case, and like I think it would benefit everybody involved, especially Karen. Again, if she it would help her rehabilitate her image too. You know what I mean? Like her image took a hit, and if you come back in the right way from something like this, as you know, people are we have pretend amnesia as reality TV viewers. Like like somebody one season, we hate them the next, and then the next season they come back and we like them again. And so like, Karen's at an all-time low for herself, and the only way to go from there is up. If you return in the right way. So that's how I'm thinking about it. So I think we see Karen back on our screens, but I think it's a question of when and if she's in the premiere of next season or if she comes at the mid-season trailer. You know what I mean?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. I mean, I know they wouldn't wanna do a mid-season. They would want her to come in, like, at the
I agree.
beginning, you know?
That's a great premiere. That's a great premiere. But
Yeah.
depends on the sentencing, I guess. I don't know.
Well, do you think she's gonna go to jail or no?
Brooke, I don't know anything about. I know I have no like foothold in terms of like what's likely.
Mhm.
But you do hear that like if somebody's had multiple offenses of the same kind, that probably impacts in terms of like again wanting to send a message or have somebody learn a lesson and but also now she's getting treatment. So it's sort of, I don't know how that all affects it. I really don't. What do you think?
I don't know. I think that maybe I could see her getting, like, 30 days in jail.
Right.
I
And then it
think
gets reduced probably. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
reduce, like, it'd only be maybe, like, 2 weeks or maybe a week. And like you said before, this will rehabilitate her image tremendously because she'll come out a humbler
Yeah.
Karen. We've seen she's gotten arrogant. I mean, the show has gone to her head. We saw that it came out in that body cam footage.
Mhm.
What she told the
Mhm.
cop, just the arrogance that she would get away with this all throughout the season. So to come back, toned down, a lot, humbled, and then she could just, sob to us and say, "I'm sorry." And people love a good redemption story.
Totally.
You know?
And also it's like Karen is somebody who was beloved by the fans in many ways. And so it's not like it was the person who did this isn't somebody who was already like hated. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
it's been kind of hard to talk about this, I think, for a lot of people, myself included, because I am such a fan of hers in general. And as a TV character, you know what I mean? But like then you're reminded that she is a person. We always get these reminders and she's fallible and she makes mistakes and she's not perfect. And like I think as you said, like it did go to her head a little bit. And I think you get to a point maybe in these shows in the spotlight where like you think that you are untouchable, nothing can ever really go this wrong for you, and then it does. And you are reminded of that. And maybe she needed that reminder more than anybody.
Mhm. Yeah, I believe so. Because I mean, Ray's even said it that
Yeah.
when they had the marriage issues that, he's noticed that her ego has swelled up
Right.
and she's kinda different, and she got upset about that. And, yeah, like, little things that people have said that she's gotten very beside herself, and this was the wake-up call that she needed.
Mhm. I'm with you. I
Yeah,
am.
but, any lasting thoughts about, Potomac? I feel like we've covered everything.
I think so too. I don't like hate this season necessarily. I'm just kind of underwhelmed and bored by it. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't like there's another show that's on that has had a season that like actively has made me like really negative about it and like I don't like it. That is not how I feel about Potomac. I just feel like the ingredients are not the right levels. You know what I mean? That's how I feel.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
soda's a bit flat,
Okay,
right?
metaphor. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I guess,
Yes.
right?
That's
If
a
I
good
had
way
to,
to
like,
no,
think
that's a
of
great way to put it. That's a great way
yeah,
to put it. Mhm.
yeah. Well, which brings me to Beverly Hills, and that comes on tonight. I'm so far, I'm not hating the season, but I feel like we can only drag out the Kyle versus Dorit for so long, right? I mean, we did have new life with the whole text message reveal.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Kyle's sort of like denial that she's in the wrong here about texting PK and not telling Dorit?
Yeah, I mean, I was almost feeling the same way you were in terms of like, how long are we going to do this for? But
Yeah.
that's the Beverly Hills way, first of all. And second of all, this text thing, I think really did reignite it for me. Like, I was like, whoa. Like, after last
Yeah.
week's episode, I was like, this is getting spicy and good and like layered because I historically really love Kyle. and I also historically really like Dorit, and Dorit is having an amazing season. And Kyle is just doing herself no favors. Like I guess it would be one thing if she had like brought this to the table, maybe if she was like, "Hey, I
Mhm.
have been I have been talking to PK." It wouldn't have been received well, but at least she is telling it truthfully and like taking ownership of it. Not only did Dorit have to bring it to the group in a big way, confront her with the vein popping out, but secondly, Kyle completely misrepresented what the communication was, and then it was a total self own. She brings up the text on her own, shows it on camera, and it is totally not what she said it was. That one line, what was it? Where it was like, "I promise not to repeat the things that you've told me." Okay, what the fuck are those things, Kyle? Are those like you know, like bad memes? Or no, it's not memes. That shit is secrets from their marriage and their relationship that
Yep.
either, I could imagine it was like a scene of like PK coming over and talking to Mauricio and Kyle together. Who knows? But like either way, she has been talking to PK about his separation from Dorit and their marriage troubles and did not tell Dorit about that. And even if they aren't close friends, as Kyle says, she is closer to Dorit than she is to PK. I'm sorry. So where's the loyalty? It's tough.
Exactly.
It's tough.
To also add on to your point, I think that Kyle has probably been bitching about Dorit and their friendship going south to PK.
Totally. Hmm.
You know, I think that they've both been talking poorly about Dorit, just as like an aside to the marital issues.
I
And
believe
I
it.
think that that's the real reason why she's been very secretive about these texts. And then for you to, maintain that it's been memes and jokes, like you've said, and then we see that line that says, "I will never say anything, never betray your trust like that. We're friends, whatever you've told me in confidence." What does that mean? Because there shouldn't be that kind of talk if it's just memes and jokes,
Hmm.
correct?
Oh, 100%. Like what? Like you and I are DMing, and all we do is send memes to each other. And I text you, "I promise I won't tell anybody about this." Like that makes no sense. That makes no sense. I'm sorry. Like, and I think, and then to add insult to injury, she doesn't see the issue with it. That's the other thing. It's like it'd be one thing if, like in hindsight, she was like, "You know what? I fucked up. Like
Mhm.
I was talking to PK about things. I was in a bad place to treat, and I was venting about her to him, and that was inappropriate." She can't bring herself to say these things, and that's frustrating. It is.
Do you think that Kyle is a perpetual victim? Because that's how I feel.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah,
Mhm.
and like, yeah, I guess she is, and I think that like she gets away with it a lot because she is, the longest running, kind of protagonist of the show in some ways, and she's gotten away with it. Like people don't question that, and I think that also the narrative has sort of also been like over the years, like there's been so many whispers about Mauricio cheating on her and like, her sticking out in the marriage, and that those have just been dogging them since basically the beginning of the show, right? And
Mhm.
so like that helps to inform that narrative too, and that helps to build up that narrative too. And now that we're seeing, it's like, mm, it's not as straightforward as that, you know. So I don't know. It's if I'm Dorit, I'm also getting activated. Let's just say that, you
Oh,
know.
absolutely, absolutely. And speaking of Dorit being activated, how are you loving or hating or indifferent about her Bo's and Dorit's friendship?
Bo's and Dorit's friendship. Um, I'm not necessarily bothered by it. I do think it's convenient. I do think that like it came at the perfect time for Dorit in multiple ways, I would say. And like people have pointed out that she latched onto the newbie because the newbie doesn't know what Dorit's like and doesn't know the backstory and can just kind of take it from here and go forward with her in that way. I've also seen it pointed out that like it's convenient that she has a sudden black best friend on the show after what she was accused of by Garcelle the past couple seasons. It is convenient in that way. I don't know. I'm not going to say that's why they're friends because I don't know Dorit that way. And also, I think that that argument sort of negates Bo's agency in this whole friendship. It's like if Bo saw that as like how Dorit that Dorit only wants to be friends with her for optics, basically, she wouldn't be friends with her. Bose can make her own decisions. Bose has, you know, she knows how this goes, right? And like I actually read a really interesting interview with her in the Hollywood Reporter where she was talking about her history at these corporate media companies and how like when she got hired in these big positions, she knew that it was mutually beneficial. She
Mhm.
knew that like she was getting the power and it was also good for them to have a woman of color at the top of their company. And like that's how she played the game. And she like doesn't hide that. She's very like open about that. And I think that's really like it's just the honesty is so cool, I think, from her. And so you think that if she does that, she's gonna let Dorit like use her for clout and like to like rearrange the narrative around her? I don't think so. You know what I mean? So I think Bose genuinely likes Dorit. I really do. And she also somebody else reminded me of this recently. It's like we all know Dorit from the past 7 or 8 years. Bose is meeting this iconic Dorit that is like amazing energy, taking it to people, being like a badass bitch. Like who wouldn't want to be friends with that person? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
so that's how I feel about Bose and Dorit. There's a lot of factors there that I acknowledge, but I ultimately feel pretty good about their friendship, I think. How do you feel about it?
I have similar sentiments. I think that Bose is too smart to be played in that
Mhm.
way. And in corporate America, let's be honest, corporate America, especially the higher you go, it's very white.
Mhm.
We can be very honest about that.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned in her interview with the Hollywood Reporter, she played the game the way that they were playing her. It was mutually
Mhm.
beneficial. And I feel like for somebody who was a CMO at Apple and Pepsi and
Netflix,
Uber,
right? Yeah.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Netflix, yeah. I mean, she's been at the top places. Do you honestly think that she's dumb enough to just get used by Dorit? No,
That's
I
what I'm
do.
saying.
No, and I do feel like they have chemistry. You can't fake that. You know when people are into each other platonically or romantically, and her and Dorit really have an energy. They really do enjoy each other. And it was cute when Bose went to her house and she said she loves to talk and I love to listen. It just
Yeah.
feels like that was like a way to like let people know like look, I'm nobody's flunky or sidekick here. Like I thoroughly enjoy Dorit being her full self. So I'm not being dragged to be her friend. Like I'm liking this arrangement. I like our friendship and it's legit.
Exactly. And I also think that like Bose gets a lot of confessional time.
Yes.
For a new addition, she gets a lot of confessional time, which I think speaks to her ability to read what's going on and to convey what's going on. You know what I mean? In a way that like as an audience member, I feel seen. I feel like she's honestly speaking for me a lot of the time. You know what I mean? Like she's sitting in that group situation and she's like, well, this is what's happening. This is what I'm feeling. And I'm like, well, same, you know? And I think for her, her ability to, accurately read a room and the group dynamic also backs that up for me too. And it
Mhm.
not just when it comes to her and Dorit, when it comes to Sutton, when it comes to Kyle and Dorit, when it comes to other people, the accuracy helps me to believe what we just talked about too.
Oh, absolutely. And I do want to touch on Bose and Sutton at the Viper Room when Sutton
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, like don't weaponize it against me." And how did you feel about that? Because I kind of felt like Sutton Dorit doesn't need to plant anything in Bose's head. Like you said, she's been observing the group and she's making her own assessment.
Yeah, and I appreciate Sutton for what she brings to the show, and I don't dislike her, but like I'm also glad that she's getting called out for how she operates in this group. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Again, we talked about how Kyle gets away with a lot. Sutton gets away with a lot without being called out over the years, and I think it's helped the show get to like the high point that it was at. But like I'm glad that Bose is not taking this shit from Sutton, and also Sutton getting latched on to the weaponized word reminds me an awful lot of her getting attached to Crystal saying several seasons ago that she was violated by her, and they latch on. Latches onto this word choice that a woman of color is using in this dynamic that is a little racially charged, and it just reminded me of that. And I actually had Crystal on my podcast last week, and Crystal's not watching this show, so she wasn't totally sure what I was talking about. But I was like, I need to know if it reminds it of it for you. And she was like, I'm not watching, but, and it was kind of like a knowing thing. She was like, I'm sure that Bose is right in this situation. I'm sure it is exactly what she is saying Sutton is doing. You know what I mean? And so that's really where I'm like, huh, I've seen this film before, you know?
Yes, yes. How are we feeling about Sutton and Garcelle this season?
Somebody pointed out that it almost feels like they're giving Garcelle like a final season arc where it's like, and I don't know if this is true or not, but it feels when it was just pointed out to me, I can't stop thinking about it because it's sort
Mhm.
of like her storyline is I'm producing all these movies, I'm starring in all these movies, my career's never been better. I have this beach house that I never thought I would have. My son has gotten through a lot of his issues and now has a grandson. I have this 3-generation family that can come to this beach house that I built off the back of my incredible career. And it's just like this like really positive kind of like end of the rainbow
G
moment for her,
Yeah.
I think. And like I love Garcelle and I hope that it's not her last season, but I also think that in the group dynamic, she's not always like bringing what she used to bring necessarily. Like even like I think about the Viper Room scene when it's like really heated and there it's sort of like a moment of like a little quiet, little, calm. She's like, "Well, Dorit, how are you feeling?" And it's like, Garcelle, like you don't actually care how Dorit is feeling because we know that you guys don't like each other. You know what I mean? And like there's something a little off, I think, with how she's operating in the group dynamic for me this season, which is I don't know, it's complicating my feelings about like her as a cast member. You know what I mean?
Mhm. I get it, because I have some complicated feelings about Garcelle this season too. So I
Speak on it. Can you speak on it? Because I want to
y
hear him.
oh, well, I mean, we follow each other on Twitter, I'm sure you see, but I just kind of feel like this is my I get pushback, you know, from subscribers. Everybody's welcome to feel how they feel, but my thing is, I'm not negating Garcelle's feelings about Dorit from the past seasons.
Right.
My whole thing is you have made it clear to Dorit that you do not like her. You don't F with her. You think that
Mhm.
she's long winded. You find her annoying, all the things, right? Dorit has made a conscious decision this season to not engage with you. She has respected your wishes to not speak to you, to not even look at you. It seems like Garcelle has been poking at her when they
Mm.
were at Seaside on the vacation, that, beachside vacation with Kathy Hilton. Garcelle was annoyed that Dorit's talking to Bose at the other end of the table. And it's like, you don't like this woman. So why would she pour her guts out to you? Then at
Right.
the Viper Room, like you pointed out, where it's like, oh, how are you doing? And when Dorit says, do you really mean that? I didn't think that that was rude for Dorit to say. It's
I
like,
don't think so either.
you've made it clear that you don't like me.
Mhm.
I think anybody would have that response. Like, do you really care? Like, you don't like me. So are you being shady? Like, so I mean, Garcelle and Sutton are wearing me thin. And I say that as somebody who I've been big fans of them. But this season, I'd be lying if I said that they're not getting on my nerves.
Right, I feel like one of the issues is, like, they almost, like they're continuing to act as they've acted for the past 3 or 4 seasons at this point, where it's like, they try to get information out of somebody who's sort of, like, in the spotlight in the midst of the group. It was, like, Erica for a little bit there, now it's Dorit, and, like, I think that, as I said, I'm happy that Sutton's getting called out for some of that behavior. I'm also happy that Garcelle is kind of being shut out by because it's sort of like they're not changing, so everyone else has to change. And like
Mm,
that's sort of how I'm seeing it right now. I'm sort of like they need to evolve with how their group is evolving because like they can't continue to like just okay, let's focus on Dorit. Let's get information out about her. Let's get information about Kyle last season about the whole Morgan thing. Like they focus their sights on one person sort of jointly and like they just expect to get the information because they're on the show and it's like well it's not going to always work like that and
yeah,
like find another way basically.
I agree. I agree. Now, my last thing about Beverly Hills, Erica being the mediator. We're
Yeah.
not really used to seeing her being the peacemaker in the middle. So, I mean, her storyline, it's kind of light and fun. She's redoing the new house,
Hmm.
but is it just me? Does anybody else get a bit tired of the sob story of, I lost everything? It's like you're still living well. You're not on the soup line. There's a brand new Porsche in the driveway.
You have a
Like,
pool, right?
it's like, come on, like you're in what, Larchmont Village or West Hollywood. You're doing well. But my point to you is, do you see her having to pick a side for this season, and whose side do you think she's going to pick at the end of this all?
Yeah, First of all, I feel like her role as a mediator is very natural. Like, it feels or not maybe not the mediator, but it feels like she's very naturally in the middle of these 2 when it comes to the cast dynamic because they have been part of this, like, larger Fox Force 5 for a while, and now it's, like, been winnowed down, but I understand Erica's position in the group, and I feel like I'm, like, enjoying her this season, honestly, in general.
Mhm.
Um, I do think that ultimately, though, like, if it was, like, she had to pick a side, I think she would pick Kyle's.
Yeah. Yep.
Because she is friends with Teddy, she has that podcast with Teddy now, I think, and,
Yeah.
like, Teddy and Kyle are obviously close, and so they kind of have a more of a shared, maybe circle, I think, and, like, I don't get the sense I have no concept for who Dorit hangs out with outside of the show. It kinda feels like she only sees her kids in PK, you know what I mean? Like, we've, like, never seen really other friends of hers, like, Kyle has a huge group of
That's
friends, a lot
yeah.
of different groups of friends, and that's just how she is, I think, as a person. And so that gets to also like the different rankings they have probably in each other's lives in terms of friends. But I digress. Into Erica, I just feel like Erica is more enmeshed in like the Teddy of it all, which inherently makes her closer to Kyle, I think. Because Kyle and Teddy, I think, are genuinely best friends in
Yeah,
real life.
they
So
are. And,
that's what I think.
a subscriber pointed out that that Erica will always choose Kyle because
Yeah,
one, in the after show, they're together in the after show.
that's true.
And then I think of how in an interview that she did before the season started, Erica had made mention of how Kyle is the longest running, castmate and, like all hail Kyle. So it kind of felt very like social climber-ish, like, well, if I have to pick a side, I'm gonna stick with the OG.
Saddle up to the queen. Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me for various reasons. But I don't get the sense though that Dorit like resents that. I feel like
Mhm.
she probably knows not to like fully confide in Erica maybe if she does sense that sort of allegiance at all.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think ultimately the loyalty would probably be to Kyle.
that makes sense. Well, off of Beverly Hills onto New York, which also the finale comes on tonight.
It does.
I'm not going to spend too much time, a cute little 45 seconds on New York.
Okay.
I checked out of this season around episode 4, and then I've been sort of watching the clips. Bryn looks out of control, and Uba in the latest episode, her screaming about the beach in Puerto Rico. I mean, I was
Mhm.
floored, but what is your assessment with New York so far? Give me your thoughts in like a minute about what you think.
Yeah, I could sense from the beginning of the trailer that all the drama was happening at the end of the season. You could tell they had nothing until this trip. And that's kind of what it was. Basically, nothing interesting happened for the first however many episodes that was until they got to Puerto Rico. I will say, in comparison to that, the Puerto Rico trip has actually been pretty good TV from my point of view. Like again, the bar is very low, but they have surpassed their own bar with this trip that like my issue with New York in general is that the conflict is all like very nebulous. It's always about like somebody texted me this and then they repeated it wrong to this person. Like it's all like broken games of telephone on the show. Now on this trip, we have some substantial drama where you can actually sink your teeth into it and understand what they are arguing about. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
they are saying things about each other, they are doing things to each other on this trip, and it's working better for me. Again, it's all relative, but I actually am looking forward to this finale because I'm really curious. It feels like some accusation is thrown out there about one of them by the other, Uba and Bryn, and I want to know what it is. And I don't think I would have thought that a month ago. I really don't.
I gotcha. Well, I'm not gonna belabor the point because I don't have
Time's
too
up.
much. Yeah, yeah, the time's up, exactly. I don't have too much to say, so I'm gonna take your word for it. I might take a look at it after Beverly Hills goes off tonight, but that's all I've got. But I do want to just close things out with Salt Lake City. They
Mm,
had a phenomenal season, like
mm.
10 out of 10, understood the assignment, no notes. What did you think about this finale and that crazy game?
I just like had no idea what to expect. Again, it was built up. It was like it's gonna rival season 4 with Reality Von Tease, and I was like, how the fuck are they gonna rival season 4 with Monica and Reality Von Tease? And I don't think it's the same level. I think
Mhm.
that's a little bit of a bad comparison. That being said, we saw them play this game particularly if you watch the extended version on Peacock,
Yep.
because the version that aired on Bravo was 42 minutes long. The version that aired on Peacock is 60 minutes,
Yep.
and 40 minutes of that is this game. So it's like it's a doozy. It's something they've never done on any franchise, and I think that part of the reason that I found it so fascinating is that like you always want to see what's like in a celebrity's phone. You always want to see what these people are actually texting each other. You know what I mean? Like that is as intimate as it gets in the year of 2024 when they filmed this, 2025 now, in their text messages. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason why Meredith snatched that phone from Whitney at Meredith's at Mary's breakfast. Okay. So, you know, I found it fascinating. I found it completely savage. I thought it was like some of the meanest things you could ever say about anybody were said at this table, and they had the person who they were about read them out loud to the group. You know, they would like get their phones out and they'd read it first silently, and then they're like, Bronwyn married Todd because he had one foot in the grave and one foot on a banana peel. And they have to like get through the whole text. I'm just like, and so Angie's text in particular, I think was probably the most savage, but it was also kind of poetry, you know? It delivered in my mind. It really did. And only
Oh,
they would do this, by the way. No other franchise would even come close to doing a game like this.
no, it would end up in a brawl if another franchise did this.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
No, but I mean, Angie's text was so savage. You don't understand how loud I was screaming. I know that my neighbors were like, what in the entire episode? I was yelling so hard because I could not believe that she said that. And Bronwyn read it. Bronwyn took it like a champ, though. She had the tears in her eyes. You know, she's holding back, you know, and she wears that stupid hot dog outfit to remind us that she sucked her way to the top. I'm like, oh,
Oh, oh, oh.
I
I
almost
can't like physically sit still. And Braun and Angie was sitting there like, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it.
and
Woof.
Bronwyn's like, it's okay.
And okay, tell me what you think about this. I feel like because obviously we saw the extended version,
Mhm.
and there's a moment that still was not in that, which was from one of the trailers. There was a clip where Bronwyn is up from the table, like being like consoled by a producer or
Yes.
something, and we never saw that. And I'm wondering if like she had a much bigger reaction to this with this particular text, or if it had to do with like when everything kind of went to shit when Lisa went off about Whitney's text. I wonder when that was.
I think it was after Lisa went off because she says to the producer, Lisa can't take anything and it's not fair.
Right.
So I
Right.
think it's after that.
Okay, okay, that would make sense because also Lisa did say, like, nobody else had sexual things said about their marriage, and I
Mhm.
think the things that were said about Bronwyn and her marriage sexually were very different from the ones that were said about Lisa's, but she was incorrect technically when she said that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Now, I do want to ask, what are your thoughts about Whitney? I think that Whitney is the Ashley Darby of SLC. I've said that time and time again.
that's a good comparison, actually.
Right? She loves to just throw rocks, hide her hands, come out with allegations, lie on people. The whole thing with the, you know, she got information from the blogger Up and Adam about Whitney's jewelry being from Alibaba. My thing is, you have yet to provide a receipt.
Mm-mm.
And why is Whitney allowed to lie on people just outright and there are no consequences? I don't understand it.
Yeah, that's and also, like, her text about Lisa was very different from all the other texts
Yeah.
because it was repeating a rumor that had never been brought to camera before, and that's where Lisa's reaction was understandable to Whitney. I don't think it was I think the analogy was never gonna work out, and I think she should never have brought Angie into it in that way, so that's where she misstepped. But if you're Lisa, you're like, "Holy shit," like, her text is she's trying to get this to be brought up on camera, and everyone replied to me when I said that, and we're like, "Well, why'd she read it then?" And it's like, okay, you think that if Lisa Barlow sat there reading the text that Whitney had said about her and said, "I'm not reading this," that nobody else would have read that on camera? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Lisa had the foresight in that moment to be like, she probably was like, "I don't wanna fucking read this, but I'm gonna be the one to read it so that I can be in the seat of power and I can be the one talking because you can just go off immediately." Where it was if it was like if Heather had reached across and grabbed the phone and read it, Lisa wouldn't have been in the power position in that moment. And so she had to read it. She did. Her hand was forced. And that's why I think about the show and I'm like, there are 4 remaining OGs, 5 seasons in. It's not as long as Potomac had them, but at a certain point, Potomac had to let go of one of them, and that was Robin. I keep thinking, we're getting to that point that Potomac was getting to, where like you have 4 people who have been in the mix for a very long time, and they know how to mix it up again, just as good as the Potomac women did. But who's the first to sort of be let loose from the group or be sort of like out of that pact, And
Mhm.
I think the way that Whitney handles herself sometimes with that information, like you said, could hurt her in that regard. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
at a certain point, it's like they're like Lisa and Meredith feel done with her. You know what I mean? Like Heather sticking it out because they're family and they have a pact clearly. Um, but that was if I was her cast member, I would be frustrated with that behavior.
Yeah, and like she gets off scot-free, and then you have Heather with these speeches of these trying to be so earnest and like I'm such a good person and rally around the group, and then she's the biggest troublemaker bringing this game up in the first place. I feel like Heather's storyline has waned.
Mhm.
Heather's storyline kind of came full circle around like season 3, if you ask me.
With the book, with
So
the good, with the Bad Mormon book, probably,
yeah,
and then it's like,
yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like it's hard because it's like I completely agree with you, but then I'm also like, without that, we would never get these moments in the show. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, what would the finale have been if Heather hadn't like organized this game with the producers? Clearly, you know what I mean? And what's funny to me, Brooke, is that like they all happened to have one person. Like there were no duplicates in the text. You know what I mean? Like they clearly got assigned somebody at some point that we didn't see, which is great. Like it makes for seamless TV. But I would love to have known the mechanics behind it. But I agree. I agree about Heather, but I also I'm personally thankful she's still there just for the sake of the show, personally.
I think that with Heather, we're really starting to see like the producer in her slip out.
For sure. For sure. Too much, you think?
Yeah, too much.
Okay.
And I think that it comes across as just like disingenuous, and it's very just like, it just doesn't feel organic as it used to, because she's
Mhm.
just like chomping at the bit to like start something.
And have another kind of like season 4 finale moment, basically.
Yes. Yes,
Right.
yes, yes.
Yeah, I get
So
that.
yeah, right? I mean, which leads
Yeah.
me to, for season 6, do you still want the same cast
I want
coming
everybody to come back. I want
back? Okay.
everybody. Even Brittany. I want everybody. I want Brittany as I do not need Brittany as a full-time housewife. I really don't need that. I think Brittany is a great friend of. Um, yeah, I just like to me, like this is one of the best seasons of Housewives in the past, but maybe ever, but definitely in the past 5 or 10 years. And like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it from my point of view. I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, it could come again. It's kind of like we said last season. It's really hard to follow up a season like this, but they did it somehow. And so, like, even if Salt Lake is like, let's say season 5 that we just had is at a 100, even if they come back in the 80, that is better than probably every other franchise in terms
Mhm.
of delivering every single week and stuff like that. So I just feel like they're locked in, and like, why pull somebody out? Who would you pull out? Like, would you not want it to come back all the same?
Well, you know what? No, because I said in my recap, I said I do want everybody to come back for season 6, but I do
But
think that for season 7, I think season 7 is when we should start swapping some
yeah,
people.
I completely am with that. I'm just sort of like right now, it's like
Yeah.
air this 3-part reunion and like literally just start filming again. Like
Yes.
just keep it going. You know what I mean? Like they have feelings,
Yes,
like I've
they
heard
do.
from I've heard from some of them privately, and it's like they have feelings about each other. And like, we heard about from Whitney on Watch What Happens Live. They all went to dinner after the reunion taped, except for Bronwyn. And then she said also Mary wasn't there, but it sounded like she was probably invited. She just didn't come. It
Mhm.
sounded like Bronwyn was kind of like left out of that.
Yes.
That's really interesting to me, especially you and I were at that ice cream event, which was Angie, Mary, and Bronwyn, and
Yeah.
there didn't seem to be bad blood between them. I mean, obviously they're all professionals, but like I don't know. I was surprised in the second half of the season, towards the end of the season, how negative a lot of them were about her, including
Yeah.
Angie. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And like, I think Mary likes her, so maybe that's her way in. But yeah, keep it all the same. You know, If
People,
Todd is down to come back to the show and so aka Bronwyn's allowed back to the show, like bring them all back.
yeah, bring them all back season 6. Next season, I want them all back. Season 7, we can start to like
Next
tweak.
question. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. But let me just tell you, I think that this is going to be a reunion for the books with Todd and John, Lisa calling out Bronwyn and not buying that necklace. I was gagged. The whole side chick in Ohio regarding Seth and Meredith. Meredith storming off. Mary's crying. Andy's crying. I'm seated.
Oh,
Predictions?
I'm seated. I've pulled up the fold out chair like they did on Dallas that one time. I'm sitting right there, front row. That's what I'm doing. Predictions. It's hard to, I mean, the trailer was kind of short, like the trailer was quick, you know what I mean? But it promised a lot. Um, I think that I feel like Lisa and Bronwyn are gonna like. I feel like Lisa like really is just like not here for Bronwyn. I think that she has a lot to say about her, and then I also think that when Lisa was on Walt Chapman's Live, she said something. She was asked something about Angie, and she could have gone really shady and really kind of snarky about it. But she was like, you know what, Angie and I are trying to work on our friendship, and to me that means that at the reunion they get to some sort of point of accord where they're like,
Mhm.
okay, we both said really mean shit about one another, but like ultimately I do think that Angie and Lisa are meant to be friends and not enemies personally, but I also think it will take Lisa being a better friend to Angie in Angie's eyes. Like I think that's sort of where they're remember that moment in the aquarium where they like had that little kids date and like that to me was like they should be friends. Like that was like real to me. And so I'm like, let's get back there with them. That's a way to change up the dynamic too. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, because also I'm like, yeah, bring them all back, but we can't have the same dynamic. We got to mix it up. So where's the change going to be? You know, that's my prediction. I think Lisa and Brahma will be a big back and forth. I do.
Same. And then with you pointing out how Bronwyn was left out of the dinner after the reunion, I think that Bronwyn might be the odd woman out for next season.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm curious what her foothold into the group is. You always have to have a foothold into the group. And
Yeah.
I just read that interview that Mary did with Vulture with Brian
Yes.
Moylan, he asked her about Bronwyn, and she said she's a really beautiful addition to the group, and she was very very kind about her. So perhaps that could be her way in. I also think that where did I hear this or whatever? There's so many things now. Um, I feel like somebody said like Heather and Bronwyn like could be friends at some point in the future, so that could also be an opportunity. Maybe they just started out on the wrong foot, those two.
Mhm.
But I feel like nothing too deep happened between them, where like they can't get back from it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's all gonna depend like fall on the reunion because the
Yeah,
reunion always brings up old wounds again.
100%.
So they might be going back and forth tomorrow night.
Well, you know what? I'm glad that they're a 3-part. I'm glad
Yes,
that it is not a 2-part. They earned their 3-part.
they did.
Honestly, like there was that streak there where they were even giving Beverly Hills 4 parts, you know, and like
Yeah,
I feel like Atlanta had a 4-part maybe at some point.
they
Did
did
they?
with the
Yeah,
whole Phaedra and Candy
right,
stuff.
right. But it's like I'm glad that this is not 4 parts. They were teetering. This could have been a 4-parter. You know what I mean? Like, and I think I would have been okay with that, even if one of them was filler. You know what I mean? Because filler from Salt Lake City is great TV too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they are running laps around everybody right now. They
Mhm.
are the crown jewel of Bravo.
They sure they've snatched that title from Beverly Hills,
Yeah,
which is what Beverly Hills had for a couple years there, and they took it from Atlanta. So like
yeah.
it's being passed. It's being passed along.
The torch, yeah, it really is being passed.
Hmm. Makes
But
you think.
Gibson, do you have any more thoughts about our SLC girls or have we beaten it with the horse? Beating it like a horse.
I don't know. I mean I could probably talk about them for 5 hours, but I feel like we've hit most of the big notes.
I think so.
I just love this show so fucking much. I think it's the best show on TV. When I say I wanted to get Emmys, I'm not being facetious. I am not being sarcastic. The editing alone is just chef's kiss, and I love it. I love it.
I mean, Meredith's theatrics and the soap opera antics, that alone deserves a Golden Globe.
Listen, and I don't know if you were paying attention to this part of the conversation earlier on in the season, but people were like, "What is Meredith doing there? Like, she should be a friend of. Like, why is she still?" And I'm like, look no further than the second half of this season. Bat mitzvah, Mary's breakfast,
Yeah.
the everything on this trip. Like, she is iconic, and like, if I think that sometimes it takes her a while to get to the boiling point. You know what I mean? Like, she's a boiling pot of water at the beginning of the season that's not really boiling yet, and then it takes a minute. But like, I always have faith in that woman to like pop off in a British accent and tell somebody to leave. Like, how could you not? She always finds a way to deliver,
Mhm.
and I will never stop thinking about her. The morning of that last day in PV, eye mask over one eye half open, and just she knew what she was doing by giving us another memeable moment in that moment, and I'm very thankful for Meredith Marks for her work.
Her sprinter van rant on Britney, that was just
Let me
phenomenal.
tilt my camera down a little bit.
Did you see how somebody remixed Busta Rhymes when she was going
No,
on?
I didn't see that. I
Oh,
need to see that.
it is the funniest thing
Oh
ever.
my
I
god, that
couldn't stop.
angle alone.
Yeah, it's so good, so good. But Gibson, thank you so much for joining me today. I had the best time talking to you, and please let my subscribers know where they can find you.
Yes, well, thank you for having me. Always the best time with you. My podcast is called Gabbing with Gib. If you prefer to listen, that is wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. We also upload onto YouTube. And Brooke, I know that you have the biggest YouTube platform. And so go subscribe to Gabbing with Gib on YouTube. You can watch most of the episodes. I upload everything there. And yeah, those are the two main things. So if you liked this, I have chats like this all the time on my podcast, and Brooke has been on before. She'll be back on sometime soon in 2025. And yeah, go if you liked this, go subscribe there.
Thank you again, Gibson. Guys, I hope y'all enjoyed. And you guys already know what to do. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye, y'all.
Bye.